Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Wolff Den. Uh, Actually, I think you need to make sure that LinkedIn is off. Don't have it on live LinkedIn, is it? Nope, we're good. I heard an echo. My bad. I think we're good. Okay, welcome to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Win Again Academy is doing some great things with their events. Mark Moyer, there's another one tonight, networking, informational. Check out winagainacademy.com. Today we welcome Natalya to the Wolff Den. Natalya, how are you? Introduce everyone. Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure. Who I am? I'm Natalya. I'm originally from Russia, from Moscow. Have lived in various countries, including US, 20 years ago. Currently moved from Belgium to Spain, to Barcelona. And what I do is I have a coaching and consulting company where we help people and organizations to live to their full potential. So a really great team of coaches focusing on energy coaching, energy leadership coaching, which I'm sure will come up later in our conversation.
Yeah. So how did you get into coaching? Let's start there.
Well, that's an interesting start. Well, I moved from corporate to entrepreneurship a few years ago. I was running a chocolate factory in Belgium, in Brussels, and I came across a thought of, connecting the great experts, great coaches and consultants with the people, entrepreneurs, leaders, and organizations that need growth. And I thought, well, while I can do that, I might as well check out what the whole coaching is all about, because I come from leadership, from HR background, management, etc. And I came across the Institute of Professional Coaching, IPAC, and it just resonated, the whole thing around purpose and energy and conscious leadership, etc. And I undertook the study, and little that I knew that it was quite deep and quite a journey. So, and it was really great timing, considering it's all about energy. And nowadays, a lot of people do need support, and a lot of organizations do need support, and that extra energy to keep going and to improve their productivity, engagement, fulfillment, and everything around, success and all the rest of it. And coaching.
Yeah. So what is, I was in Belgium. Actually, that was my first stop when I traveled abroad. I was unemployed. I lost my job, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to Europe. I've never been. Let's do it. I backpacked. I went by myself. I was staying in hostels alone, and Brussels was my first stop. And it's funny that you were talking about, chocolate, because what do people outside of Belgium? Is it chocolate? Is it their fries? Is it the waffles? What would you say?
I think it's all of it. It's all of it. So chocolate is really good. It's one of the top producers of chocolate, along with Switzerland. There's a competition there, dark and milk chocolate. And beer, waffles, mussels, fries. Very different fries from the Dutch fries, because the Dutch are very popular for their good fries too. So really great country for you to start exploring Europe.
Yeah, it was, and I'll tell another funny story, because I don't know if I ever told this. So I had never been abroad alone, and maybe I'd never been abroad at all. And you read all these stories about, pickpocketers and people who are trying to scam you. And, so I had one of those packs I wore underneath, and I'm walking around, and I wanted to eat. So I'm walking around outside. It's a beautiful day out. And I sit down at a restaurant outside where there's all tables and stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I don't know what it was, but some guy comes over, and I could have sworn I didn't think he worked there. He came from the restaurant next door, and he hands me a menu, and he's like, I forget what he did, but I got all spooked out. And I left. I ended up walking up and leaving, and I have no idea why. But so that was my first experience in Belgium. I did end up going to another place and getting some delicious mussels, which I like. But it's funny when you're a foreigner. it's just, it doesn't seem like it should be that much of a different world, but it is. It's just way different. So that's a long way of getting to asking you, you know, how did you adjust coming to the U.S. or when you move around from Russia to Belgium? Those are very, very different places, right?
Well, yeah, speaking of different places, so it was 1996, post-Soviet Union, right? Moscow. I won an exchange program to go to US, sponsored by US government because they wanted to invest in the whole communication partnership with Russia, etc. Little that it works, but anyways. So I come all the way from Moscow to California, 96. I don't know if you imagine the huge difference. And I was living in the suburbs with American families. Actually had 4 families in 1 year. So speaking of adjusting, it started back then, I would say. So after 1 year of adjusting to different families, different cultures, language, of course, 2 schools.
Was that planned to move from family to family?
Not necessarily. Well, I think there was a couple of them extras because there was a first orientation month sort of, and then we were placed in the family, and then I had to switch families, and I had the supervisor's family then between. So, anyways, so you learn how to adjust and not to moan as much and feel homesick, because you just have to keep going, keep moving, and which was fun. It was the best experience of my life. I think it transformed the whole thing and the way I see the world, and looking at the fact that there are no borders, and actually you can achieve everything you want and you can survive in any circumstance. You just have to keep going and not be paralyzed by whatever discomfort and stuff. So that was US. And then 99, I went to Amsterdam. And hey, when you were talking about Brussels and visiting cities in Europe, Amsterdam was quite an interesting spot to end up as a student. So I had a lot of fun there.
That was my second spot. So I went in it was almost like a question mark. It was Brussels. I took a day trip to Bruges, which I would definitely recommend for anyone if they're in there. Such a great day. Brussels, Amsterdam, Prague, then Berlin, and then Munich, and then down to Italy, Rome, and Florence. So it was about 3 weeks, almost just shy of a month.
No Barcelona? Speaking of pickpocketing, here I think they were masters in this till the lockdown hit, and there were no tourists anymore to pickpocket from. But
they no, I got to Barcelona 2 years ago. We were at the Canary Islands, and we went over to Barcelona.
Beautiful. We're in Canary Islands. I lived in Tenerife for 2 years.
Yeah, that was it. I just stayed at I had won a trip with my work to the Canary Islands, and my wife and I went, and then we hit Barcelona, and then we went to Portugal.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
nice.
love to travel. It's I wish I would have done something like you, like studied abroad, or because a lot of people I know, they do go study abroad for a semester or for a year, and it's a really great experience. It's just curious to see if it's like, how it is if you're American going over there, and how it is if you're not American coming to the U.S. I'm sure it's a different experience, but still both fulfilling and very helpful for what you were looking to do afterwards, right?
For sure. Well, I wasn't looking at all. It's sort of, I came along with the journey of life and all the moves. I actually moved, now it's 24th time in 23 years and 6 countries. It's kind of like going with the life ride, sort of. But I do highly recommend, if anybody's watching this that have kids or teenagers, to send them for an exchange program or to study abroad. I think it's the best experience that really puts you on the spot and teaches you life and opens up the world, and that ability to see that there are no limits and you can do it and see it all, and there's no need to sort of put yourself in the box because there's a whole world out there.
Yeah, it's and they're subsidized in a way, right? So it's not as if you have to spend all of your life savings.
No, not at all. And then my education in Amsterdam was quite affordable. I worked at the same time I studied, so I kind of made it through my, growing up and studying. It doesn't have to be. It's not like in US, you end up in a long debt and. Yeah.
I just watched. Last night I watched the college scandal on Netflix. Are you aware of the scandal with the Laura Loughlin and
I've read and I listened to a podcast around that earlier this year.
You should watch the Netflix show. It's crazy. It's just crazy to think that these people were spending that much money just to get their kids in, and it was like USC. I mean, I don't want to belittle USC because it's a good university, but look, if your kid can't get into USC, let them go somewhere else. You already have everything you need. These people didn't need anything else. The one girl, Olivia, was already making ridiculous money. She already had contracts with makeup companies, and lives are just ruined. And it was really just well done, the documentary. But crazy to hear the kind of story that came from that. So that's more about the U.S. and the craze of college and how much it is and why people don't go. I mean, you can be very successful and not go to college depending on what you're trying to do. Some of the most successful people I know didn't go to college, and they're, I mean, I would put them up at the top of everyone I know and how they did.
I think most entrepreneurs actually, they either kind of worked through college or invented stuff through college, and even if they went to college, it was just to put the check on it. I mean, I know I did that, but luckily I had the opportunity. It was very practical studies, but education is a tool to achieve your dreams and go for it, and not the other way around. Make it as a key objective and then break your head of paying back the debt for years afterwards. Not a great start for a kid's life, career.
Yeah, it's all about, we talk about privilege and access. And so, it does, there's people that out there that if it was an even playing field, and who knows what they can do.
I think
some of them are able to overcome it anyway.
I think it will change a lot. Nowadays, there's a lot of e-learning and a lot of self-made and self-development, and you can learn a lot from Mind Valley.
Yeah.
Example.
I don't have any kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and it boggles my mind how smart these kids are at such a young. I mean, they're 3 years old and they're playing on an iPad. Like, we obviously didn't have iPads when we grew up, but I don't even know if we did that we'd be able to do it. I'm on Clubhouse. I was talking to some 12-year-old who's an entrepreneur already. And
wow.
I'm having interns here, and I have sophomores who are reaching out to me to do internships, which is crazy. You used to never do it till maybe you're a junior, maybe you're a senior, and you're ready, summer before senior. So everyone is getting a head start, which they're ahead of the game. But there's so many people who are doing that. Competition is tough. It doesn't matter if you're in grade school or high school or college or after or established. There's always competition, and people are fighting for attention. So I guess that leads into maybe what you guys do on the coaching side is talk a little bit more about that program. But I assume it's helping people understand how to put everything together and get stay in the right path and be headed in the right direction. But talk about the program. What is it? What does it entail? How long is it?
Certainly. Well, I would start, with the kid, there's a whole thing of kids following someone else's path and living according to someone else's expectations, and the society and the parents and the neighbors and, whatever, the kid across the block. And the key is to go back to what they really want to do. What do they even know when they're 18, 16? 20. And that's the whole thing. And that's where coaching helps a lot, is to really start at the core. And core energy coaching that's what we do. It really is all about the core energy, what is at the core of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And that's, at the end of the day, the whole thing around physics. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get the reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. Our dear Einstein said that. And there's a lot of talk about resonance, and energy attracts like energy. And you were talking about competition. Yes, there will always be competition, but considering that every single person is very unique, and if they tap to that uniqueness instead of being busy with, what everybody else says and the next best shining thing and stuff, going back to the core. So what we do with core energy coaching is really getting to the core and moving people forward to where they want to be, their optimal selves, those dreams and those desires and aspirations and goals and whatnot. But there's a lot around, well, you have to achieve, you have to do all the to-do lists and all the, the great stuff, from education to the right career path and stuff. And people tend to forget about being. So they're all about doing, but who they're actually being. So we go to the core of that. We come back to that, and we keep on reminding people who they really are and why they're doing what they're doing.
Do you guys use the personality tests and the quizzes and to try and find out, maybe help people find out who they are and what they want? Because that's a tough thing. I mean, I talk to people all the time, like, what's your dream job? And you would think that would be an easy answer, but it's not.
It all starts with energy, their internal energy, and it ends with it. We do have an energy leadership assessment test. And so that's all based on Bruce Schneider's methodology that includes a whole lot of science in it, from quantum physics, NLP, leadership development, emotional intelligence, positive psychology, you name it. And at the end of the day, it's all about attitude and how you see life, your perception. And what we do within the energy leadership methodology, we walk through, as we call it, 7 levels of energy, or 7 levels of perspective or mindset, if you wish, going from being a victim or being stuck and feeling at effect of life, situation, people, or yourself for that matter, and moving up to the place of creation, of being at cause. So and that's the whole spectrum of raising your energy, becoming more productive, becoming more in line with yourself, reaching the sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and success in all areas of life. And as it's proven, the higher you resonate on your energy level, the higher consciousness you have, the less ego you put into place, the more you actually attract what you're looking for. Collaboration, productivity, getting into the flow, having great cooperation with other people, because energy attracts like energy. If you come from the positive energy, it sort of resonates back to you, and vice versa. And so that is what we work with.
What
and
about
with,
opposites attract?
sorry?
The famous Paula Abdul song, Opposites Attract.
That's a different type of attraction. You can always say fake it till you make it. If you believe you're already there, and that's the type of thing that you attract, that positive energy, we call it anabolic energy, and catabolic energy is the disruptive, draining force, and anabolic is constructive and building force. So that's physics, basically. And too much of the catabolic, the draining and the called negative force, is actually physically draining the people. So they produce those chemicals that eat from your body cells. That's why people get into all kind of states of depression, burnout, and all sorts of stuff. It's just not healthy to constantly have sense of fearfulness, anxiety, worry, self-doubt, and all that stuff. It drains on you not only mentally, but physically as well, and the other way around. So you're talking about the tests. Well, having the energy leadership assessment test is one thing, but there's so many tools that we use to really connect people with themselves and understand what is that they really desire, what is that they want, how do they want to visualize their life, how they want to live, and move towards that. Plenty of tools.
Yeah. So my question regarding on the energy side is there any comparison to athletic ability in the sense of you're either athletic or you're not? You can try real hard, but you're never going to be this. Now you can try harder. You can be a hard worker. You can figure out other ways. But with energy, is it, hey, I'm low energy, I'm high energy. I can only get to this level because that's just who I am. Maybe you're inherently lazy, which I have some stuff about me. I'm motivated. It's a very weird mix. Is I'm very motivated, but have that lazy aspect to it. So is there, with people, do you have to say like we attack this differently just because of maybe I'm very mellow and someone else is very high strung or high energy or all rah rah? Is that something that you guys have to adjust to when coaching and talking about energy?
There is a certain aspect to it. So at the end of the day, it's all about what's at the core of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. You say you're lazy. What is your thought when you're feeling lazy?
Well, I'd just rather be doing something else.
Right. And so your thought is, well, I prefer to do something else. So think of it, and it's with me in yoga every morning, and when I need to do the yoga because I know it's good for me, right? So my thought is, forget it. I don't want to do it. I'm good. I'm fit enough. It's fine. If I miss this, it's going to be okay. Those are the thoughts. The feeling is, well, I'm lazy, chilled, it's okay. And the action is, I'm not doing it, right? Now, the thing is, you can trick it from each of the ways: so thoughts, feelings, and actions. Am I cutting out from your screen?
No, you're good. You're good.
So you either think, well, I really want to do it. I need to do it. It's good for me. I like doing it. So those are the thoughts you can work on, or you have them naturally. Your feelings is, you feel upbeat, or you have the energy, or you don't, or whatever. And then the action is starting or not starting it. You can trick the system and start. It takes a couple of seconds to decide to do it. It takes a second to act. And once you're in the action, you feel differently and you think differently. See?
Yeah, I mean, I feel better, not better, but I feel good in a sense when I exercise, and I don't particularly like exercising unless I'm playing basketball or doing something like that. But so I can do it, but you still will be okay if you miss out on a day. So it's it's
of course
tough. I know people who are just so committed to something that that's it. It's like brushing your teeth, right? But some other people have to work a lot harder at it and maybe that's where their energy is. There's a lot of energy in them. Some of it's, I guess, self-imposed. Some of it's maybe who I am. I don't know.
That's a whole thing. That what you said is that's where their energy is.
Yeah.
If your energy is not in there, you can acquire the thoughts or the actions because you don't feel like it. But you can acquire the thoughts or the actions of someone that is actually doing it and is innate. You can trick the system. You can put the mantra, whatever helps you to start to do it.
Right.
And so it's the same with everything else. So we look at different perspectives. If you see the perspective that conflict exists and I really need to win that deal, and I'm in competition, I need to get ahead, etc. You think the conflict exists, you start becoming, you become defensive, aggressive, frustrated. It does move you forward. So you have all these feelings and you have a certain action that you would in the conflict state. But if you don't believe the conflict exists, if you don't believe competition exists, and you actually see the situation as something collaborative, somewhere where you can have a win-win, so everybody wins. It's not just I need to win, you have to lose. But if you have a higher level perspective, whereby you foster cooperation, you foster productivity, you foster win-win opportunities, and you always see everything as an experience, as learning, then everybody wins. And the energy that you put into it is a different kind of energy. It's not that catabolic, negative, disruptive energy where it's all about you winning and screw the rest, but it's a different one. And that actually attracts the win-win and attracts the kind of people that want to collaborate with you and come up with new ideas and move forward, etc., etc. That's a different type of self-leadership or team leadership as such, if we're moving into that direction.
Yeah.
Perspective.
When I hear energy and you talk about that, it kind of directs me towards, philosophical type stuff, spiritual type stuff. The universe is working the way it's supposed to, and everything happens for a reason. Is that, because you talk about it in a scientific sense, but is it also a spiritual and philosophical type ideology, or is it purely science from your perspective?
Definitely spiritual for sure as well. And well, if you think of neuroscience, however you can think of it, it's not what the world is, not just what we see. If we think from physics and atoms and cells, and if you know that your thoughts can actually make you sick, and if you listen to Joe Dispenza and all sorts of people like that, you actually, and that's scientifically proven, if your thought can make you sick, your thought can make you more productive and happy and fulfilled, successful, and all the rest of it. Like attracts like, whole abundance thing is there. The only thing that stands between us and what we want is ourselves, the fears, all the stuff that we tell ourselves all the time. So spiritual. If you move towards a higher level of energy, you start with feeling that the world is on your shoulders, the self-doubt, you can't control stuff, can't control COVID, this happens to me, whatever, etc., etc. There is a lot of ego, right? It's all about me, the poor me. I need to survive, I need to make it happen, etc., etc. It happens to me. The spiritual piece is the higher you go on the energy level or on the consciousness level, there is no ego. Basically, it's ego transcendent, egoless. And you know what all about, if you think about yourself and how much pain and suffering and resistance you have, it is heavy. The higher you go on the energy levels or on the perspective or mindset or whatever, it's less about you, and you feel like we're all connected. That consciousness piece, you lead your life and everyone else from the effortless kind of way. That's a completely different experience. Things can be the same, but the experience is very different.
Yeah, we had Ryan Nurse on. He's the Fool Around the World. He had a traumatic brain injury, got out of that, got into depression, got out of that. And his, takeaway was gratitude, which, can really take you away from those negative thoughts and away from the me thoughts to be like, it could always be worse, right? There's someone who's in my same situation who doesn't have the resources or the ability or the support system or for whatever to help, move forward. So, I think that it feels like that ties in a little bit, gratitude, mental. Some people just can't get out of their own way. They're always looking for I forget the saying, the shoe to drop or the other shoe to drop, or, they're just like, it's not going to work out. And whether you think I don't want to say if you think it will, because look,
it will.
Sometimes there's some things that you can't just think to existence.
Well, you can.
If I say I'm going to will myself to win the lottery,
But you see, your thought that it's not possible already blocks it from the fact that it might happen.
But I know it's possible, because I always say somebody's going to win it. Somebody's going to win it. They always do. Not every week, but eventually someone wins that jackpot. But I think it certainly is going to, the things that we can't control, if we have positive thoughts, even if it doesn't will it to, there's nothing good can come from having the negative thoughts of it, whether you get to the end result that you want or not. Thinking negatively about it, and it's might not be a great analogy, but I have these conversations with people about my favorite sports teams. I'm like, why do you even have to say that this possibly could go wrong and we lose? There's nothing good can come of that. So just think we're going to win until we don't, and then we didn't, and that's it, and we control it, and that's life. But
and that's tricky with sports. But the whole thing is, can you enjoy the game without being attached to the outcome?
No,
because that's the whole thing. If you let go of the outcome and you enjoy the process, and life is an experience and learning, etc., and whatever has to happen, everything happens for a reason type of thing. Point one, if you're not attached to the outcome, you will enjoy the process more. Instead of sitting on the needles, well, this is not going to go well, they're going to lose,
When you're fanatical about your team, that's hard to do. When you're just watching a game, and you can go back and enjoy, be like, hey, that was a great run, or that was a great game afterwards. But I don't know, if you're a sports fan, that's very difficult.
I know, I live with one, so I can relate. And I keep on telling him, don't be attached to the outcome.
Yeah,
sometimes it works.
That's the worst thing. I don't know if Brent is listening in, but that's the worst thing you could tell someone is, don't worry about the outcome, or don't let it ruin your day. He has a funny thing. His wife said, don't let him ruin his day. He's like, ruin my day? He's like, this thing ruined my month, my whole week, my month.
My life. This team never plays well anymore since the 90s.
So we understand it's a game and it's entertainment. We're still attached to it, but it's hard. You can't escape the outcome.
The only thing I'm saying is that it's a choice. So you either are on the lower energy of saying, I have no choice, I'm at the effect of it, and you really feel heavy and very much affected by it in a negative way. Or you can be a choice and you can choose to worry and whatnot, but you don't let it drown on you and you don't let it drain you, because the whole thing about energy is, does it give you energy or does it drain your energy?
Yeah. It's sports is a whole sometimes I think I can't control that. I try to. I even try to be like, man, whatever happens, let's just enjoy the ride. And then you get there and there's disappointment. There's a lot of different feelings, disappointment and sadness.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing, that disappointment and sadness and frustration and all that stuff technically are all the catabolic energy that is sort of disruptive and draining and stuff.
Enjoying, like, you can enjoy, like, sometimes, I don't say you enjoy feeling the heartbreak of it, but to feel that connected with something is, it's very special for me, for the team I follow, the Gators, and all of their sports. It's just a special thing to feel that connected to something. And so you're going to have the wins and the losses and the ups and the downs, and you kind of ride with it.
That's what I was going to
You live with, what is it, soccer?
Here, football, like the traditional round ball thing. Yeah.
Right, soccer. And what's his team? Do you know his team?
Manchester United.
Ah, Man U. Yeah, they're on a little bit of a downslide, right?
Yeah, so every game is a thing. I was going to tell you, there is no good or bad energy. Like you said, you do need to feel the disappointment or the upset or the worry or the fear to understand what is important to you and how you want it otherwise. And we do tend to fluctuate up and down. The question is, how long do we stay in those lower energies?
Yeah.
Or can we get our thoughts to different states whether it is about helping others and having gratitude, or working in collaboration with people and finding win-win, or finding the purpose. And we pull ourselves up in that moment. So it can all be momentary. The question is, do you stay there, down there long enough to be in the burnout and depression? Or is it just a nice sign of wisdom? Like, okay, this is how I feel. That's what's important. That's what affects me. And moving on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a delicate balance between what's really important to me and what's really important in the grand scheme of life.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah. But, it's also good. I think you have to be down and experience the sadness and experience, things that are not great, because that's life. I mean, no one goes through life with everything going their way and everything being positive. I mean, maybe 1%, right? It's like the 1%ers. It's just, it doesn't really exist. So, it's okay to be vulnerable and to admit when you're down or defeated or whatever. But like you said, just, get back up and don't let it fester too long, because it can do a lot of damage.
Definitely.
The two people experience this exact same thing.
Sure.
Let's watch and see how they react to it and how they adjust to it.
Like, I train sales teams and leadership teams and stuff. And of course, a lot affects them. Anything and everything affects them. Now, the question is how long you stay down, and is that really affecting your self-confidence? And there's a lot to it. Like, a company can come and say, well, my team is not performing, they're not motivated, they're not delivering what they're supposed to. Have to keep running behind them, and etc., etc. Now, I can give the tactics for sure, but looking into where the energy is and what are they actually thinking and feeling, because what the leadership sees is the outcome or the lack of outcome. They're not performing.
Well, my view on that would be, and this is maybe just more from a sales perspective, that they're either not the right people or they're not incentivized properly. I think that would be my general assessment on, and that's not to say there's not other situations, but I find that to be a big problem in productivity and people being micromanaged. It's just
definitely. There are lots of cases where leadership doesn't even talk to their people. They just say, well, okay, there are no results, but hey, do you actually know what's going on in the life of this person? A part of COVID happened to him and sitting at home and all that other stuff? No, well, start talking to your people. It's in simple terms, but it's not always as evident. People are not necessarily always sharing. And then there's a whole big ball, making it bigger and bigger, and until people don't talk, and they just, they blame themselves and they think they need to be performing, but they really don't want to do it. And last year they were the best at what they did. Actually, what you were saying, either not the right people, not well incentivized. Well, incentive can be a different thing, but again, pre-COVID, best salesperson. Post-COVID, can't get out of bed.
Yeah. It could be also, again, with numbers and stuff, there's a lot of funny math going on. So you can say that you underperform, but these people can raise the goals. They have shareholder. I mean, there's so many factors to go in that you really, I always talk about going beyond the numbers to really figure out what might be going there, because someone might be performing exactly the same, but you switched around the way that the metrics of it all. And so it just looks like they're doing worse, or it looks like they're doing much better. That's a business.
That could be.
Let's get back a little bit about life by design. You mentioned companies and individuals. Is there a breakdown? Is it 50-50? Are you more company centric or individual? How would you describe it?
I would say both. I mainly work with entrepreneurs, founders, or leaders in organizations. So by definition, there is an organization behind. Of course, I also do life coaching with an individual, but then there's always a company behind, because people, work and life is pretty much intertwined. So always affecting one another. We are very holistic beings. So
And how do you feel about work-life balance? I mean, is it been important to you? Do you always stress it for yourself?
what is balance to you, or work-life balance to
Work-life
you?
balance. Well, for me, it's a little bit different now that I have my own company. But back in the day, it was to make sure that when I'm not at work, I'm enjoying and giving myself the ability, time, and mental space to enjoy life instead of just always worrying about what's going on at work. I used to leave work at 5, and that was it. I was done until I got there the next day, which, for the most part. And then I got into sales, so when I'm away, I thought a little bit about it, but I would always make sure that I was living in the moment, enjoying the time, go on vacations, take time off. I just saw something where people are having to pay to incentivize people to use their paid time off. I'm like, how did you get to that? I mean, I would use every second I get of paid time off, and that doesn't make me any worse of an employee. That's part of my compensation package. It's, you've earned that. So I find that really strange. I used to buy time at my last company. They let me buy, hours, and I would do it every year. I'd buy 5 extra days of vacation. Couldn't imagine not, I would have bought 10 or 15 if they would let me.
You guys have very little vacation days in Europe, Spain. Some get up to 40 days vacations in a year.
I would start with 10 days of vacation when I first started out 20 years ago. And I've lost jobs that I already had gotten offers for because I asked them for more vacation time and said, I even offered to take it unpaid, and they still withdrew the job offer.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's probably better. Any company.
Better start your business.
Any company that doesn't value their employees that much to allow them to, it's not a lot. If you get the work done, it's not a lot. As you know, they offer that. I mean, I think I can work 4 days a week, 8 hours, 4 days.
In Europe is different in that sense, but balance, it's very individual. There's no such thing as the whole thing of 50-50 or whatever. Balance is whatever is necessary for that particular person. I mean, I have a friend that sleeps 4 hours a day, and he's like a machine full of energy, no drugs and no energy coaching needed. It's great. It really is all individual, but if for some, balance is to have their business and to be in the business or work on the business for 12 hours a day and look at the sea and have a nice dinner with family is enough. For some, they want to work 4 hours a day and enjoy the rest of the time with family and friends. And that's what gives them that mental stability and balance and stuff. Whatever influences their energy for good or bad, or gives the energy or takes the energy. Or maybe they're not in the right job or right occupation, and even if it's 4 hours a day, it would still drain their energy and they would drag to do that.
Yeah,
so it all depends.
I'm a big believer in getting out of situations that don't make you happy or that make you unhappy. And that probably ties into the energy conversation, because, man, you're in the wrong job. That's a big, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's the majority of your waking hours on a Monday through Friday. And my father used to always tell me, well, don't leave a job until you have another job. And I always used to think, yeah, that makes sense. But then I was like, look, I was going to work every day. I was miserable. That could do a lot more damage than just me being out of work. Because you always find another job. But you can't maybe get yourself, you might be spiraling down and have that energy in such a direction that sometimes it becomes very hard to overcome.
One needs a space, a mental space to even think straight. But the whole thing with energy is that if you are in your zone, in your flow, in your element, in your genius, and that's the higher energy level, we'll call it level 6 in our methodology. If you're in that flow and genius, connected to your purpose and your intuition and all the rest of it, it becomes effortless. And then it's not work necessarily, it's just pure passion and pure wisdom and total consciousness and effortless. And that's the whole thing. We can do something for 5 minutes that can do something else for 1 hour and to have less done and have less sense of fulfillment. And isn't the whole life is all about reaching that state of happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, and success, whatever that is success to you?
Yeah, but also some of it is, I think, being able to look at your achievements and still be fulfilled and happy about it, even if it wasn't, you know, exactly where you needed to go. And, you know, being happy, being able to be happy with less. And that's not to say don't shoot for what you want, but, you know,
Sure.
be happy with what you have, happy with less. Would you say that your friend who's 4 hours of sleep, energy, is he, you know, maximizing his potential? Is he doing damage by not sleeping? I mean, people, you know, on the go, is it, what's your feeling?
I personally think for sure it definitely is damaging for the health on a long term. One can live a long time on that energy boost, that internal energy boost. I mean, we used to go to whole lot of parties at night and be still fresh in the morning. I mean, things do change with age. Whatever gave us energy before might not be giving us that energy nowadays. But at the end of the day, it's whatever gives you fulfillment, you know. And you were talking about achievements and being happy with less. The thing is, and that's a whole part of moving from the ego to self-transcendence and that consciousness and the happiness fulfillment piece. If there is no judgment, if we don't self-judge and judge the situation for good or bad, productive or not, successful or not, and that's where that attachment to the outcome kicks in. If you don't have the judgment, it's okay. And you will be enjoying what you do because you're continuously improving, you're doing what you're connected to, you're in that flow, etc., etc. And that's what happens up there. It's no judgment. You're great, you're unique, you're doing the best you can, and you'll do better the next time. And you enjoy what you have. Otherwise, it's just constant misery, resistance, suffering, and life's not all about that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times the roadblocks are not internal, in your circle or your partner, or, you know, I always say to, and I had this conversation with my wife. I said, well, do whatever makes you happy. We'll whatever the result of that is, we'll figure it out and we're going to be okay. And then it's also, I say to my friends, like, why wouldn't you want your partner to be happy, or why wouldn't they want you to be happy, and stop you from doing the things that make you happy? Obviously, you know, there's differences, like, hey, oh, I'd love to go away for travel the whole month. Okay, well, you know, now it's all of a sudden you're putting a negative impact on our family. It's different than, hey, I want to go to this one event, or I want to go to this thing this weekend. So I think a lot of times it's it's husbands or wives, boyfriends or girlfriends, maybe parents, maybe
society, colleagues, jealous friends, or anyone that puts you down and puts limitations, those limiting beliefs and, you know, interpretations and assumptions that just make you miserable, actually, instead of going for those dreams, because it might be just around the corner. But no, someone puts that roadblock and you're like, okay, well, I'm going backwards.
It's hard. It's hard because, you know, if it's a loved one, it could be, you know, everything's great, but this thing, and then you just settle for it and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to do this. And now all of a sudden you're upset about it. You have regrets. You know, it's tough to navigate through, regardless of whether or not you have a coach, because the coach isn't going to tell you, you know, leave your partner.
Definitely an objective party to spend some time with and to move you forward to your most optimal self. But you're talking about the tolerance within the 7 levels of energy. Tolerance is the level 3, and that's the mix between, it's on the edge of anabolic and catabolic energy. You can find the silver lining to keep moving forward and say it's good enough, and find the coping mechanisms and stuff to keep on tolerating and coping and hanging in there. The question is, what are you actually missing. Is this good enough? Or do you really want to connect to who you truly are, and to those dreams, and to that passion, and to that flow and purpose and whatnot?
But there do
Or
have
even stay in there for a long time?
right? I mean,
Huh?
there has to be sacrifices, because you can't
Well,
catch
that's a
every
belief.
single thing that you want. I just don't think that's possible. Just
Depends what you count as a sacrifice.
yeah,
As long as you don't keep it, I mean, as long as it doesn't drain you for too long, and it's just a check, well, whether you like it or not, sitting there and feeling like you're miserable and you want to spend another 10 years there just because someone says this is how it's done.
no, you got to avoid the resentment part of it.
Exactly. So that's the part, the frustration, resentment, all that tolerance thing. I used to say, well, I'm very tolerant because I tolerated a lot to, you spend extra years in that function. So you have extra years on your resume, you have extra experience, this and that. You tolerate as long as you don't break yourself and lose yourself in the process. If there is a higher calling and purpose, if it's purpose-based, is it purpose-based or is it fear-based? Are you sitting in there because you're fearful to move forward, to leave that partner, or to ask for a new a pay raise, or start your own business or whatever? Is it fear-based or is it purpose-based?
But I mean, that's a tough thing, because I'm Jewish, but I have friends who are Catholic or Christian, and in a faith, isn't there a mixture of purpose and fear? There's like purpose to it, but you're also fearful if you're not going in the ways of what you're told.
You can make your fear your best friend, and fear can be a sign of wisdom to tell you what is important and why you care. And not the kind of fear that paralyzes you and stops you from moving, because in the present moment, fear doesn't exist because there's something that you're projecting into the future. But in the present moment, it doesn't exist. But it does tend to paralyze it. We don't think to our full potential. We don't act to our full potential. There are no choices available to us in that state of fear. The anxiety, all the worry, and the confidence drops and everything. So taking away fear and just using it as a sign, unless the lion runs at you, then you run, from the lion, understood.
Yeah.
But if it's about a sign that, okay, I need to calculate these things, and that's what that fear is for in the moment, I take them with you and just think of it as your best friend and as a tool to move forward, rather than paralyze you, because that's what it does.
What percent, I mean, this is obviously just taking a stab or a guess, what percent of people do you think are living their best life and living close to their potential, or at least at the higher point towards their potential, and maybe moving in the right way instead of stagnant? I mean, is it very low? Is it high?
I can't say the percent. What about you? What do you think about yourself, if you were to answer that question?
Myself, I
Are
think
you living to your full potential?
I'm getting there.
Getting there.
I think fear had stopped me for a long time, and being complacent, but I've broken. I mean, that's not me anymore. And I'm very, me personally, I think I'm very aware of my faults. And so I try to work on them. But at the end of the day, I think some of that is just who I am. And I don't know that, that I can get rid of it, but I can use that, as you say, use it and have it motivate me. No, I'm not where I need to be, but I'm a lot closer now than I was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So part of that evolves with age. Part of that is wisdom, realization, and then just doing. Once you do, you just see that it's not so bad, right?
Right. And that's the thing. You keep on moving forward and you keep on improving. There is no glass ceiling.
Right.
You keep on continuously improving. And that's that mastery mindset. It's not performance mindset where you just tick the boxes and hit your KPIs. It's continuous improvement. So your potential also moves forward a nudge. Just like your
people who are closer to their potential, where the movement is real slow, as opposed to someone who can, go that way.
Yeah, that Peter Pan, that principle, the glass ceiling thing. There is the percent is definitely lower of those people that the ones that have whole lot of space to move forward to and be their best self, the best version of themselves.
And there's people who have part of
And
what they are at the top, but part of them is at the bottom. Like people are so successful, but they're unhappy, right? In the entertainment world, it's just a success. How do you define it? Sure, I have a lot of money, but I have a lot of problems too, and decide that they, or not decide, but they just can't overcome the bad parts of it.
right, yeah, it's heavy, and so that's the thing. Are they living their own life or the one that someone else says they should live because it's all nice and shiny and that's how it has to be done?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, I don't have that problem. It's kind of a nice problem to have if you can get away, if you can get through the dark part of that, but I guess something to aim for. Let's talk about your, we're heading towards the end here, but I want to talk about, I guess, your upbringing and, you're born in the Soviet Union, right? And,
Yep.
and then the Soviet Union goes away, you go to US, you go elsewhere. What, obviously, Russia is going to have be a big part of your life, but is it different, if looking back now that you're older, to understand what was going on when you were younger and what's going on with it now? Is that something you can talk about? I don't know.
I'm not a big politics talker, if that's the question, but I think Russia is definitely has a lot of potential. Speaking
Yeah.
of potential, and a long way to go till the ceiling.
You go
It's
back?
I go back regularly. A part of the past year with COVID, I go several times a year. I mean, my whole family is back there. So, and it's only 3 hours flight from here, from
It
anywhere in
probably
Europe.
gets bad. I mean, it's a very great place to visit from what I hear, and it's one of those places that probably just gets such a bad rap based on what it is, and maybe it's a different experience if you're American than if you're,
Yeah,
same thing with going to France and coming to the US, depending on where you come. And so,
I
I
think
can understand that.
Russia definitely has a questionable reputation. It's definitely has a certain. Well, a lot of people have opinion of it. It can definitely improve its politics. It's a beautiful place to visit. Very cultural. I mean, Moscow has, I don't know, like 300 movie theaters in there, and we go to theaters as you guys go to movie theaters, and it's
Yeah.
highly cultural. Very diverse culture, very diverse country, very rich in resources. Unfortunately, that does not mean it gives its richness to the people.
Yeah.
But really great people, great education, and hopefully not everyone is going to leave the country. And now the new generations, they're changing quite a bit there. So we'll see how long our current
Yeah, it's
is
interesting.
going to
There are
stay.
people who leave where they're from and never go back. And
Definitely, because we change. I mean, my culture changed. I live in Europe for 20 something years. I'm here more than I was in Russia.
yeah, you understand
Multicultural.
the importance of the change from Soviet Union to Russia.
Definitely. I still remember the times where we had humanitarian aid coming from, I don't know, was it Germany or Hungary, coming to our high schools, and we were getting cookies because, I mean, the stores were completely empty, and we had green bananas that were on top of closets. So we could, that's why I prefer green bananas still, because I couldn't wait till it was yellow. But yeah, stuff like that. So you do kind of, way still remember living in hardship and suffering and tolerance and all that stuff. So within us, we have that, but doesn't have to be so difficult.
No.
And we do have a choice, and they do have a choice. The people in Russia have a choice.
Yeah, we'll go to the lighter side as we wrap up here. I always love to hear, where's your favorite place to travel, and where's a bucket list that you haven't been, that you would love to go to?
Bucket list. Well, I've been to around 40 plus countries, so there's still a long way to go. Um, I do love Spain. It's pretty standard, but I would love to go to explore more of Asia, and I love Latin America, and so I was traveling back there every year, and I really love the people and I love the culture, and so I mean the bucket list is a world travel, so travel around the world. So
You can only
it
pick
sounds
one.
banal, but
You
huh?
pick one place that you've never been.
I haven't been to a lot of. I keep thinking of Bali, and I promised to visit a friend there, but for nature and.
I got to get back to Asia. My brother and I he won a trip to Japan, and so we went, and then we went to China, and we both chickened out of eating insects at the market.
Yeah.
We got to go back and do that. I'm kicking myself for not doing it. I don't know why, but that's just something that sticks out in my mind.
I was at the African party in Europe though, and they had insects as well. I chickened out for those two. But yeah, China has all kind of stuff. I remember. Yeah. I mean, it works for them. You don't have to try them if you don't want to try them.
No.
I've chickened out in the Japanese restaurant in Shanghai. There were some things in there that did not look like food to me. I did make the bet. The other two did eat it though, but I have bailed out.
Yeah, that's all right.
Japan is one of those countries too, and definitely a beautiful place to visit.
Yeah, agreed. We always ask our guests this question. You have 24 hours to spend with one person. It could be anyone in the world. They have to be living and you can't be related to them. Who are you going to pick and what would you like to do with them? And we're going to try and make this happen for a guest. That's
really?
That's a positive. We're going to make it happen and we're on the list and we're going to say, we're going to do it. It's going to happen for somebody on our guest.
And it has to be a human, a person.
What did you have in mind?
I don't know. Animals.
You want to meet an animal? Like a specific animal or just like?
I don't know. I feel like being in the jungle with friendly animals.
Yeah?
Somewhere in Latin America, but safe. And with a nice...
Tarzan?
Tarzan. Yeah, I was thinking that. So.
No, I guess we got to try and pick a person. Let's get a person on.
That might sound stupid, but I would be curious to see real Putin for who he is without all that, stuff.
No, we've had people, they say Obama and Trump. I mean, to get 24 hours of real, this is who I am and not who I need to be, that would be interesting.
If this is exactly who I am and none of that stuff.
I might have to become like president or vice president to make that happen, but I'm not opposed to that. We'll put him on the list.
Put him on the list. I mean, he's a quite curious figure any way you look at it.
I would think so. I mean,
he did manage to run this country, which is a hard country to run for gazillion years. I mean, the guy is smart. So, and we have grown and developed in many different ways. So
yeah.
It's not an easy position to be in. There's no judgment. So.
Well, I have plenty of judgment, but we'll save that for another time. It's just human nature to judge people on actions and stuff like that. I think it's hard to step away from that. But tell everybody how they can get in touch with you. Life by Design. You see the website below. How can they support you? How can they get in touch? How can you help them?
Yeah, and just the website, contact at lifebydesign-academy.com, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Natalya Berdikyan, same as my name. You can shoot me an email, send a pigeon, ask for support and help. Anything I can do to help you and your organization, I'd be happy to support in any way possible. And my team, who is across the world from US to Europe. So be happy to do that. And stay in touch, sign up for the free newsletter, keep yourself motivated, inspired, and high on energy to help you achieve your dreams and goals and live by design.
I like it. Well, I appreciate your time here today. Great to talk to you. I think you gave a lot of information and perspective that people should tap into. Certainly gave me some ideas and thoughts, and I look forward to seeing your journey and speaking with you again. So welcome. Thanks for coming to the Wolff Den. We got a great episode this afternoon, Open to Work. We're helping people find jobs. So tune in at 2 p.m. Eastern today for our next Learning LinkedIn Open to Work. Otherwise, have a great day, night, week, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. And see you in Europe, I hope, Matt.
Yes, I hope. I'd love to go as soon as we can.
Start with Barcelona.
We'll go back to Barcelona.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Natalya.
Bye.
Bye.